Welcome back to one of our live streams. Awkward start again. Welcome, Derek.
Thank you, Michael. I'm glad to be doing these. This is
Well, it gives us something to do, I guess, in this time.
yeah. I've changed the lighting, if you can tell. A much more zen approach to my 10 o'clock p.m. It is a little weird that we're on such different time frames.
Yeah, but time, what is it anymore?
That's a good point, yeah. But I like to be asleep at noon, which is where you're at.
Yeah, true. I did have to set an alarm.
That was one of the things before we got talking into books I said I wanted to ask about is what is it like there? I mean, are stay-at-home orders across the whole country?
Yeah, well, they're basically telling everyone to self-quarantine and only go out if needed.
Okay. Yeah.
They are finding people that are not, like, if they're out, they will find someone. And so you can't just read in the park or anything. But that is going to change probably at the end of the week.
Okay.
I like the effect of your tea going over your screen.
Oh,
Hey,
it could be the tea. I also have some incense going. As I said, I have zenned out my routine here, so it could be a lot of that. Okay, well that's it. Yeah, I'm curious what the rest of the world is. One of the things about this is how, and I know we had talked briefly about it last time too, but you know how lonely this can feel. You know what I mean? Because it really feels like you're hunkered in with whatever your immediate family is, and
yeah,
you know what I mean. Yeah. So you and your wife, and for me, my wife and two kids, and that's my whole world. Now, I mean, that's not so different for me. I am not. I mean, we're bookish. I'm not the most social animal in the whole world.
Yeah.
But it's different, and so just the sense that someone literally all the way across the globe is in the same situation, and that there's something like 90% of students, like my kids, I think about them not in school, and it's 90% of the whole world's kids not in school.
Yeah.
So while isolated, there does feel to be this commonality between the experience we're having.
Well, there hasn't been any new cases in this town for about 20 days.
Oh, wow. That's great.
So I think that's why they're going to relax it a little. Not too much, but just a little.
Yeah, we're still rising, I believe, in my little county. And, nothing crazy. Unfortunately, as awful as this is to say, I mean, we're next door to a county with a large federal prison, and that's where a lot of the cases are happening. If you look in America at the top 10, 8 of the 10 are prisons, which is awful.
Yeah. Have you got your bleach injection?
I have immediately. Whatever my master tells me, I go right out to the store.
We'll try not to go too political. How's this affecting your reading, though? Because this is about reading habits.
Yes, a lot. I mean, I am well off any typical pace. It is very hard to read. I know we had talked at one point. I kind of tried to, in the very beginning, I read some translated noir because I figured, okay, this is easy, to read. These are good plot stuff, and that was fun to go through. But I've been trying to get back on my normal reading. I'm reading Perec's Life, a User Manual, and I've never read it before.
Yeah.
I'm about 160 pages in, and I can already tell that this is one of my favorite books ever. But I only read 60 pages between Saturday and Sunday. That's a really low amount for me, so it's just hard. It's hard for me right now to read more than 3-4 pages without stopping to do something. It's just like I get distracted by my thoughts, nothing external, just, psychologically, this ambient din of fear, I guess. How about you?
Yeah, I haven't read much at all. I did finish a translation, but now I'm just reading a generic crime novel just to get some reading done at least. It's really hard to concentrate. There are a lot of times I want to read, but yeah, when I get to the reading, I am struggling.
I got some books this week, which are only going to make me more anxious that I'm not reading as much, especially since the Perec is really long. I have it here. How big is this thing? I mean, it's
about 500 pages.
Yeah,
which is long for a translation.
Yeah, about 500 pages, and I mean, the chapters are really short, and you're in and out of people's rooms since that's the nature of the story. Is one apartment building. And so I found that really interesting during this time to read because while you leave the apartment building via people's stories, you are only in one apartment building. So that's kind of neat, like with the quarantine. But it's big, and at this pace, I mean, usually this would be, I'm trying to think, 500 pages. I think usually that would be about a 7 or 8 day read for me in normal time. Is that about your pace?
Yeah, about that pace.
Yeah.
Probably maybe about 100 pages reading session.
Yeah.
And I try to do a bit of reading before going to bed. And sometimes I get some extra reading times, but that's normally my habit is before bed, have a tea and have some reading time.
That's interesting. So my wife is a bedtime reader. That's when I listen to podcasts. For some reason, I always have one podcast I listen to at night. I circle, but there's 3 or 4 I like, and that's when I'll have my tea and sit up there and have my headphones in. I have trouble reading at night, right before going to bed. But I have different places and times throughout the day where I'll, but part of it too. So, I've mentioned before, I work from home in normal times. So that's where some of the lack of reading comes now, I can't just be in a little nook, there's going to be some kids running around or, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm not alone. Oddly, that's a thing about isolation with me is that I'm not alone, whereas I normally do have more introvert time. And as an introvert, that can be very, very difficult, even when it is your family.
Yeah, true. What is your normal reading habits? Just whenever you get a chance, or?
No, I think I have so when I first wake up and I drink iced coffee every single morning. So I wake up and I pour my iced coffee. If it's a nice day, I sit out on my front porch. If it's not a nice day, then I sit in the couch in my living room, and I usually get about 30 to 40 minutes of reading then. Then kind of get started on my day with work or whatever it is. And usually right around lunch, I'm going to get another 30, 40 minutes in, kind of while I'm eating, not as studiously, because eating, maybe answering emails with work and a little distracted. But then my favorite reading time. So typically my family, I go pick up my kids at 4:30 and my wife gets home at 5:30. So I try to be done with work at 3:45 or so. And so from 3:45 to 4:30 in the afternoon, I'll do a nice little chunk where it's just me. I finished up my day. I feel relaxed. And that's probably my favorite part of the reading thing. And then honestly, from that point on, I'm not getting reading done typically because with kids, it's make dinner and do baths and do bed. And then I've got the 1 hour a day that I can spend with my wife, so watch a show or whatever it is. But so that's typically my routine. I'm a I'm a solitary reader in that way. Even though my wife is a big reader, reads just as much as me. We read at very different times and not together. Like we're never just like sitting on the couch reading.
You have very different tastes in books as well.
We do, yeah, we do. My wife likes really, really good stuff. It's just it's almost all contemporary female American writers. So yeah, it doesn't overlap much. I think I may have told you this, but I forced Die My Love into her TBR stack. It keeps getting pushed down, which is bugging me. I keep like suddenly because I wanted to read it so bad, you know.
Yeah.
But so sometimes you know to force one. But she's working on the Lost Children's Archives right now. You know, like so. I mean, it's good stuff. It's just you know, it's just not what I read.
True.
So is that evening routine? Is that the only time typically that you like set aside in a day that you're reading?
Well, that's the only time I really try to get the reading done. Like, if there are other times during the day that I can get some reading done.
Do you ever read outside of the house?
What's outside?
Yeah. A park, the beach?
Yeah, like I'm normally at home. So even though it feels very different now, but it is like my normal routine anyway.
Okay.
So not much has changed for me, but yeah, it has affected my brain.
I like a park, so I do like to go, especially because that's one of the only times with kids that I can read. So I will just bring like a fold-out chair to the park, and they get to do their bikes and play because they're old enough, and I'll sit and read. So I do like to do that. Other than that, like I don't. One of the things, like, so if we ever go on beach trips and stuff, like we've gone with my parents before or my wife's parents, and they know and think of me as like a big reader. And yet here we are at the beach, everybody has a book and I typically don't, you know, which is like, they're like, I thought he reads a lot, but I don't know. I'm someplace new. So I don't really, I don't know.
Yeah.
When I'm away, I'm not reading as much.
Is your like family annoyed when you ask for books for presents all the time?
Well, I don't, you know, because no, I mean, but now this year I asked my wife for a Deep Vellum subscription.
Yeah.
Which, like, just side note on that, I love that publisher, but like the first thing this year was an epic poem. And I don't really read poetry that much. And then the second thing was a YA book that they are pushing as, well, it's so good that it's, you know, whatever, it's better than the genre indicates. But like, I don't read YA, so like you can tell me that all day and it's actually just not going to move me. Even though I love, again, like it's one of my favorite publishers. And then the third thing, it looks pretty cool, but it's their first English language release, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so anyway, it was just funny. It's like right when I get a subscription, it's like, these aren't hitting for me. But anyway, so I mean, but with my wife, that's different, right? Because she's wants to get me something I like. But with in-laws, those are probably the only people in-laws that would ask me, you know, what do you want? And you know, I just don't. How would you explain to someone with no reference point, you know, the kind of stuff that we read? I feel like we would just get 100 Years of Solitude every year, right? Like, I don't know.
Like, I have a wish list on Goodreads. Oh, like, here's a list of books.
Yeah.
Here's a list of books I'm interested in. And like every now and then I'll go through that list and try and cut it down. It's like, there are always books there. It's like, why did I put this on my list again? And then just cut them. So I try and keep that like that's a certain amount.
Yeah,
it's like 400 books, but
oh my god!
It's like I keep telling myself, keep it under 400, keep it under 400.
That's a good goal.
But I probably was telling myself, keep it under 300 before as well.
Yeah. Oh man, that makes me anxious. There's something very specific about my anxiety with that many, you know, where it's like, Whew, I just ask for a sweater. I I don't know how to explain what I like to other people. I mean,
Yeah,
outside, I mean, I
it's
don't know.
too hot here for that kind of stuff.
It's so niche. I mean, I think, did you see that tweet that Booker, I think, put out or something? That I don't have the book in front of me, but the Charco book, so I can't remember the name of it. The Adventures of China Iron. Is that
Yeah,
was that the
Chino, yeah,
Okay, so that's the Charco book that was shortlisted for the Booker, right? Not just long list.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And
That's right.
hadn't yet sold 1,000 copies.
Yeah, but I wonder, is that UK
Oh,
only?
that's a good point. But
Like, I don't think it's released in the US yet.
well, that's a good point, because see, the Charco thing is difficult to understand here for me, because what happened is they got in the market, but then they started to release books that had been released long before. So now I want to say I'm not even sure if I've seen Die My Love yet in a bookstore. Maybe it has been, but they're older copies, Fish Soup, things that were happening 18 months ago or so. So that's a good point. Maybe that one isn't out, but you would think, because they can, now that they have this deal, Charco can put it out in America whenever they want. There's no American publisher for that title, obviously. No. So you would think that with at least the Booker, you would push it forward, and maybe if there wasn't all this going on, they would be. But I just find that crazy. It clearly doesn't have ebook sales, because there's no way. I think they did 99 cents or something during the first 2 weeks of quarantine. So
yeah,
because I don't read ebooks, which I think we've talked about. Like I've never been able to, and that was the very first ebook I read, and maybe it wasn't 99, but it was cheap. It was like $2 or something, and so I thought, well, here's a Booker Prize winner for $2. I should just, buy the ebook and try it.
Well, speaking of reading habits, why is ebooks so hard for you to get into? Do you have an idea?
Well, I stare at screens for work.
Yeah.
And I stare at screens and read for work. So specifically, I'm either looking at an Excel spreadsheet or I'm looking at lots of text. So I think that's part of it. I like a physical object. I love books.
Yeah.
That kind of ties in a little bit with last week's conversation with book collecting, but I love books. I've never been able to do it. I have tried a couple of times. I've tried, honestly, more with audiobooks, because I mentioned, loving podcasts, and I really do. And now, so for my work in my regular life, the one thing, while I work from home, I do travel a lot by car.
Yeah.
So, but for longer trips, so like 4+ hour drives across the southern United States to different offices. And I do that, 2 to 3 times a month. So I have a lot of built up time where I'll build up podcasts. I have tried with audiobooks, and I want to try again, but just make it like fun thrillers and stuff, because maybe then I would like it. But I have not been able to ever do audio or ebooks. I don't know. There's something really important to me about that physical book, but also that set aside time. And I've mentioned this before, I think, possibly not to you, but on a video. Like, one of the things I like about reading is my mind is racing a lot, and I have a lot of neuroses and anxieties that when I'm reading, I really like that I'm giving away my inner voice to someone else, and whatever it is about a device, the fact that I can so easily move to some other distraction on that device makes it not work for me.
I know what you mean, but I have to use ebooks because of accessibility, unfortunately. Yeah. Sometimes I just can't get the books. Like, if you're following the International Booker Prize, ordering the books can take 2 to 3 weeks just to get through.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's just not possible. So I kind of rely on script and occasionally some ebooks from the Kindle store. Like, I try to avoid Amazon as much as possible.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have to be used,
Oh
unfortunately.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's when I want to read all the series of one of those Ross McDonald or John McDonald noirs. I mean, sometimes that's a necessity because there's going to be, they're going to be $2 used on there. It's just kind of hard, Now, I understand it. The accessibility is huge there. I can't imagine what your shipping cost must be to get a book and how long it must take and everything else. We're doing like a buddy read of a book called The Arid Sky with folks, and Damien Keller, who's in Australia there, who joined the read. I think it's been 3 weeks since we started talking about it, and he basically was like, yeah, I mean, don't wait for me. There's no telling when this thing will come.
Yeah, and
is that what it's like? Like, you just don't know?
Yeah, pretty much. It'll be about maybe a month, and because of COVID, it might be longer.
Yeah. Now there's no telling, of course. Yeah. So that is such a.
But isn't that book like 150 pages or something? It's like very short.
Very short. Yeah, very short.
You'll be done before he gets it.
Oh, I'm done. Yeah, I finished it. And now I have this thing where I'd like to go ahead and review it, because since I'm reading the Perec, it's like I don't have a lot to review. Do you know what I mean? It's going to take me a while to read that. And, I'd like to review the Arid Sky, but I don't want to before we get a chance to talk about it, I guess, with the group and stuff. I don't want to jump the gun. So I'm going to need, that falls into my other question. So do you read more than one book at once?
I do. Normally, yeah. Okay. There are times where it's just one book. Like at the moment, it's only one book, but I like to have a lot of books on the go.
Yeah.
I like to be able to pick and choose.
I like that idea. I've always struggled with it. Now I am trying to do it, and I have.
Yeah.
So it used to be that there were a couple of occasions depending on a book. So did you read either Seven Samurai Swept Away in a River, or his other one from that Korean writer was Vaseline Buddha?
No, I didn't read it.
Okay, so those are, and I don't have his name here. Ends in Yun, but I can't pronounce his name anyway. But he wrote these two books, and they are both stream of consciousness type of writing. They're very kind of pick it up, do a couple pages, put it down. There's literally no plot. There's not supposed to be a plot. And there's nothing kind of beyond his own experience internally. So I was enjoying having that I had it on a little table by my couch where I would just pick it up and read 5 to 6 pages.
Yeah.
That was the first time, and that was this past fall when I read the first one that I started to do that. That was really the first time I can remember reading 2 books where it wasn't a situation where I had left one at home on a trip or something, and I just needed a book. Otherwise, I'm just such a bad reader when it comes to remembering that I would have a very hard time reading more than one book. But I'm going to have to try, because I can't wait a month to do my next review, and I've got some short books that I want to read. So I'm going to have to figure it out.
You're going to have to write everything down before you...
It can't be rocket science. Well, I mean, but how do you keep I mean, do you find yourself rereading as you pick up a big book that you're working on? Like if you haven't touched it for a while, do you find yourself kind of rereading it, or can you get right back into the flow?
It really depends on the book. Like with 2666, which I read last year, there was like months. I finished part 4, and I put it down for like months because I just couldn't go back to it.
Yeah.
Not that it's a bad book. It was just so...
Yeah.
Well, that part. It's just too full on.
Now, what about with Duck's New Report? Like, were you able to just like go right through that without...
There's this kind of repetitiveness to it that I really enjoyed. And I just like being on that journey of like see where her mind takes her.
Yep.
like the way she like went on those tangents and the way like that kind of thought process, I really enjoyed that. I think that would make an interesting audiobook just because you can tune out a little bit and just like see where she's going, what angry rage she's going on next. But I do wonder if the fact that being said over and over again out loud would get annoying.
Well, here's what. So if she couldn't read it, who is an actor she could think of that could nail that, like the attitude of that voice? Because I have a guess, having not read it at all, and I'm just going to give you my impression is like Frances McDormand from like Fargo. Do you know what I mean? Like,
okay,
because she's got the Midwest accent thing, and it's like she just seems tough as nails and like could do that kind of anger, but everydayness, you know, that I'm imagining. I haven't read the book, but like I feel like I know the sense of the book, you know.
I think, you know, she was in 3 Billboards. That anger could really work.
Yeah.
But I think that would work really well, actually. It's a good choice.
For a book,
I don't know. Yeah, I've got the audiobook. I will listen to it at some point.
So did Lucy Ellman read it? Did the author read it?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I can't remember who read it.
I would love to narrate an audiobook. I think that sounds fun.
Yeah. I know a book Olive wants to get into audiobook or narratives as well. That's her goal.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you know a book Olive.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. That's cool. It's neat.
It's a 45-hour book, though.
And by the way, I should not. A guy should not narrate that particular one. Yeah, I'm just saying. That seems fun. The audiobook.
You could narrate "Die My Love."
I could narrate "Die My Love."
Your experience is
probably odd enough to where she would think that was funny and cool or something. I mean, like,
are you much of a rereader, or do you even reread?
I wrote that down in one of my questions. That's interesting. I have reread, throughout the years, but I'm not a big rereader. In a year, I think I reread 1, maybe 2 books. What about you?
I try to read more. There's like so many books I would love to get back to.
Okay.
Like, one of my goals that I'm thinking about doing next year is just taking an author and reading his biography like chronologically.
Mm-hmm.
So, Die My Love and Feeble Minded I've already done.
Yeah.
No, but I'll pick at someone with more of a catalogue.
Yeah.
Because I am bad at just reading one of the books and not going back.
Next year would be a very good year to do Gaddis, because JR and the Recognitions will have really cool New York Review Books editions coming out like in the fall or something.
I don't think I've ever read it.
Gaddis is really good, but I couldn't imagine reading those back to back because they're both, that's 2,000 pages probably. But and it's and they're very different books, but they're just, it's a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tension would be fun if you're going to be weird,
Gravity's Rainbow is going to be fun, hey?
Yeah. I can send it to you.
I struggle with large books a lot of times.
Yeah, so you need a prolific author who's not a 500-pager. You know what I mean? Somebody who is,
and non-American.
And non-American. Yeah. Sarah Mungo, right? That could be one. I'm trying to think who. I mean, there's a lot of French, right? I mean,
yeah, there is. I'd like to do Palladio, but I don't know if I'm ready for 2666 again. But I would like to get through all his books at one point. I've only read 3.
Well, embarrassingly, I think I probably did that and not even on purpose. I mean, some of my fanboyish natures with that stuff, it's like kind of weird to admit, you know, like, but I mean, yeah, when I got into him, I went through it pretty quick. Now there was still stuff to be released, and you know, I read a few things in between, but I was devouring it like I hadn't eaten. You know what I mean? Like, so that one would be a good one to do, but tonally,
yeah,
there's no chance.
There is a gem.
You know, tonally, he has one point of view. You know what I mean? Like, so that part would be difficult, I think, if you were just reading him through that. I was thinking about this today, and I don't know. There's kind of a question in it, okay? But I told you right before we started this that I had watched Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which I knew you loved, and I loved it too. But as I was watching it, I was thinking, this would make, obviously, a great story novel. Was it one first? Because I have no idea.
I don't believe it was. I think
all right.
The director wrote it, or someone wrote it. Yeah, I can't remember.
But I was thinking,
I did look at it. Yeah,
I was thinking that I, for some reason, do not read that many love stories anymore. Like,
you're out of your Mills and Boons stage.
Yeah. But even like that's like a really great love. You know, there can be great love stories. And I was thinking, in my late teens or 20s, like I read a lot of, and of course they're all written by men, so like it wasn't, you know,
porn.
Well, it's like their version, right? It's like the literary porn, which is like, you know, but so much of what I read now deals with death, and so that was kind of my question, was that do you find that you read a lot of death work?
Well, I've said this probably a million times. Like, my life's pretty good, so I like to read about people suffering.
Okay, so other people suffering,
yeah. Not real life people,
right.
That's just hard to deal with. But you know, fictional people suffering, I love that.
Well, I like it, and obviously I picked these books, but I noticed that the darkness is pervasive, and I think that, like a lot of good art, I think that, you know, darkness is going to be an element, you know, that's explored. But in some ways, I'd like to get off of a death kick here for a little bit. Like, I'm feeling a little too existential myself, to where, like, you know, middle age, like there's a pandemic going around that's killing people. You know what I mean? Like, I just like would like to get out of the headspace of like everything is temporary and meaningless.
Yeah. You're just an emo boy at heart.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's my background.
Yeah, but same. I don't think I've got past that in my life.
So the reread, I had there's my little, I wrote some notes down today, and I haven't even looked at them because I didn't need to, which was great.
Do you come prepared?
I wrote down, nonfiction. Do you read any nonfiction?
I try to. I have the anthology, the Norton's anthology of literary criticism on the go, but that's like,
that's meta. I don't know. Yeah.
It's not something that I'm actively reading, but it's something that I would love to get through completely.
Yeah.
It's just a pretentious brag there. But I do like nonfiction. I like books about books, like people, like memoir type things where people are talking about their reading life or something like that. I find that interesting, and I can't get enough of those, even if they're bad.
See, I like those in fiction. I'm not as interested in them in nonfiction.
Okay.
And that's probably why I like the Via Matis, you know, so much, is because that's what he's going to give you. But
yeah,
I love books, fictional books about writing, about writers, about books, readers, you know, anything with that. But with fiction, with nonfiction, I'm not as interested. Nonfiction, I read a good amount. When I read nonfiction, I read a good amount of political stuff. So if there's a book on all the ways the CIA has screwed up, like that's something I'm gonna, lean towards.
That's a big novel.
Yeah.
No, not novel.
Yeah.
No,
No,
it's a big
it is a very
fiction.
actually the one I have is very, very big because there's a lot. So I'll read that, and then I do go through phases where some true crime stuff really does interest me. Lost
Yeah.
Girls was one a while back about some deaths in the Long Island, New York area that really stuck with me. And then there's a book called Columbine that's about that school shooting
Yeah.
from like a really empathetic perspective for everyone. That was really good. Those kind of stick with me. But I go through phases. I have not read a nonfiction book since actually that CIA book, which was probably like last June or something. And I've only been reading fiction as of late, but I'll go through phases where I'll read some political nonfiction.
Yeah.
I read articles more so with that. Like on Sunday mornings, I always go to longform.org. Have you ever visited that site or gone there?
Yeah, I've looked at it a few times. It's not something I actively look at. I've got Medium on my phone.
Okay, yeah.
I get notifications every day, but they've changed it now where it's like, oh, you've read enough for the month. You've got to pay for a subscription or something.
Yeah, Longform to me is just like it highlighted, it's run by the University of Pittsburgh, and it sort of highlights here's the best nonfiction pieces of the week, I feel like, so
yeah,
I'll just scroll through and usually find one or two that are really good. I mean, that Tiger King thing that everybody's freaking out about on Netflix. I mean, I had read that article 3 years ago or something, you know what I mean? Like, and there's lots of things like that I find more enjoyable actually in article form than I do when they make a documentary about it. There was the McMillions on HBO. There was a documentary about how these guys scammed the McDonald's Monopoly game. Do you know about that?
Yes.
Okay.
I was just thinking, man, you are a Chad fanboy.
Did he talk about that as well?
Yeah.
Oh God. Well, I didn't watch the show because there was no need to. The article had come out years before, and it was pretty. I mean, it was pretty complete. You know what I mean? So I didn't understand why I would need 6 hours. You know what I mean to catch up. But anyway, so my nonfiction reading is probably more article.
Yeah.
Whereas interesting, I don't read a lot of short stories. So maybe for nonfiction, it's got to be short.
I like criticism, so I like literary criticism. Like, just
more into that.
Like finding someone that's really good at like dissecting and analyzing books. Reading those are always fun to read. Something I wish I was better at is like being able to break down a book and like write a few thousand pages on it. I think that interests me.
Is that the medium that you would like to be able to do it in? As far, what would you like to be able to write it? Is that
to write it?
Yeah,
I think so. Like, I feel like I'm not natural enough to do videos, but there are people that do great videos.
See, I would be. I would like I think I would like to be able to articulate it, either video or a podcast. Either one of those, more so than sitting down and writing it. Only because I fear for me, I would be too academic if I tried to write it, and I wouldn't be that way if I was using more natural language.
Okay, so your writing that tends towards the more academic.
Just because that's how I was taught. That's the like bad habits I have if I'm doing something critical, like that's what I did in college. So I feel like I would tend towards that. I mean, I never sketch out anything with the videos that I do, but if and I haven't done this a long time, so maybe I'm wrong, but if I was to sit down and write out my thoughts about what I'm reading right now, I just think I would inadvertently make it too stodgy and not fun, which like that what I like about video and podcast is that like you can show people how fun reading something is.
Yeah.
Ideally, I mean,
Yeah. We'll have to do a conversation on podcast because I think there's a lot to talk about. But like, I tend to go towards the ones where it's more casual.
yeah,
Like, obviously, that's my approach to it as well. I don't like the professional stuff. I don't enjoy it as much. I like to just listen into people having a conversation.
well, so are you the same way? Like, what do you typically like about a booktuber then? Like, what's a style or a video, type that you'll like when it comes to this medium?
Like a lot of times when I watch BookTube, and I've been very slack in BookTube lately of watching it. I don't actually watch the screen. Like, I'll just have it played like a podcast.
Yep.
So it has to be someone that has an interesting thing to say, an interesting personality, obviously talking about books that I'm interested in reading.
Yep. Have you ever found anyone that you have enjoyed listening to, even though you don't want to read their books? Like, because that's happened to me a couple times. It's sort of interesting, like, because there's books where I know I won't read them, but then just by listening to someone else kind of review it or be excited about it, I feel like, I've absorbed a little bit of that culture. You know what I mean?
There's heaps of them, and I'm not sure if she's still listening. One of them's actually...
Oh, was one of them on? Oh, great.
Yeah. But I don't know if you know Amy from A Dusty Bookshelf. She reads a lot of old, like, vintage type books. She gets a lot of her books from the used bookstore.
I don't know. That's pretty interesting, though. That's a cool way to do it.
Like, she has an interest in those really older books.
Okay.
But like, listening to her talk is like, she's very well spoken. She's very well articulate. But she has a lot of interesting things to say.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't read fantasy at all. And he actually, do you read fantasy?
No, I can't get into it at all.
Okay. I can't either. I've tried a couple different times to be like, it would be awesome to like a series, because one thing I am jealous about with fantasy is that once they like something, they get like, tomes and tomes of it. But I mean, I've never even seen Game of Thrones. Like, my wife liked the show, but I've never even, like, it's just not my interest. Yeah. But I don't think he really does books anymore. But it was like Eclectic Literature, and now it might be called Eclectic Cove. Yeah. I used to really like listening to him. There was something soothing about his voice, but then he also talk about like fantasy stuff where it's like, I knew I was never going to read this, but I kind of liked him describing it. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it was very casual and natural. I felt like I was just sitting next to him, and so that's the style that I like for BookTube, and not just because I can't edit personally.
Well, we can talk about Steph, who's not going to be here because even though she wanted to be, she used to not be able to edit at all. She just record at one sitting.
Yep.
Which is like, I love that, like watching her try and get everything she wanted to say without having to edit.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine how many times she had to stop and restart her whole video.
I edited this week when I did Tentacle more than I've never done. And actually, it was kind of fun. I mean, what I don't find fun is going to YouTube and I want to find out how to do one thing and having to watch 4 videos because I'm bad at telling which one is going to quickly tell me how to do one thing. You know what I mean? Like, I really like the videos that have like a pointer, and are just like, I look here and then he, you know what I mean? So anyway, I end up finding these videos that are just, they're too much, whatever. And so I don't like that part. But once I figured something out, it was a little fun this week to play with it, but only a little. Do you want to talk about
I did a whole Linda course.
You did a whole what?
lynda.com. They're like video tutorials. Yeah, I did a whole thing trying to learn how to use DaVinci Resolve is what I use, which is a free editing program. So I took the time to just watch through that. There wasn't a lot that I needed to learn, but there are stuff I would like to learn to be a better editor, I guess. It's probably just practice.
And I like Lynda. I've used Lynda for work, actually. That's like 80% of how I got any good at
Excel.
Yeah, Excel, basically. Yeah, I mean, it helped me a lot because I had no clue. But man, I'm so impatient, especially if I have something ready to go. You know, maybe during this time where I'm reading Perec and I'm not able to make a lot of videos, maybe that's the time to try to do something like that. But I don't absorb things in that way, learning wise, the way that I do reading, actually. You know, like, so what would happen is I could go through a whole tutorial, but when it came time for me to actually do one thing, you know, to change the color saturation or something,
yeah,
I would have to go back and watch it again because I just wouldn't remember it. You know, it doesn't. I mean, I don't know. What about BookTube stuff that we don't like? Is that okay to talk about?
I guess it is.
Is that too dangerous?
Obviously, we both do BookTube, so it should be allowed to criticize. I think we should be allowed to. Obviously, we
not naming names. I mean,
no, not too many names. I don't like tags. I hate tags.
I hate tags.
When I started, I did tags.
Well, it's tough, right? Because, okay, so for someone like me, from my perspective, so I'm under 100 subscribers. Tags would be a pretty quick way to bump up subscribers, to get some eyes on the channel. You know, I mean, so it's hard, but I don't like them. You know, I would be shoehorning opinions to fit the tag. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to really diving into something. The only one I've ever seen that I've liked successfully is just an obvious one, which is a Meet the Booktuber, because of course it's interesting to learn more about.
Yeah.
You know, so like when Dan did that one, I think it was like a year of his channel. Here's his weird book club. It's one of my favorite channels. When he did his Meet the Book, that was really interesting because, you know, you're getting to know somebody you had watched for a while. But the other tags, when you've got like the letters, like S's for whatever, or the 97th page, the third line of the 5th paragraph, I can't get into that at all, unfortunately.
Yeah. Like I did a few tags to begin with, and there was just try to be part of the community, obviously. Like I don't know about you, but did BookTube ever affect your reading or your approach to how you want to do your channel?
My channel, some maybe, yes. My reading. So before I started a channel, I mean, I definitely read things that you had mentioned on your channel, but that was because I had watched enough to know, okay, this person has similar taste. So in that way, you know, BookTube, you know, there's been a couple of channels where I'll buy a book because of it. I mean, Agnes doesn't do BookTube anymore, right? Beyond the Epilogue, but she's another one where if she had a recommendation, I'd look at it, you know, because she's an extremely student.
I'd like to do more.
Yeah.
But I like people talking about translated literature, so I keep telling her.
So there's not a lot of that in this community. So
there's not a lot anywhere.
No, there's not a lot anywhere. That's a good point. So no, it hasn't really affected my reading. I may have mentioned this before, but I did not really. There were only a handful of channels that I had watched before I started doing BookTube myself. And then once I started to do BookTube, the algorithms then fed me a bit. And I did not know, for instance, that like YA and fantasy and science fiction were such the dominant theme of like people that have thousands of subscribers, you know?
Yeah.
So that part I could just sort of ignore, because even though it's labeled booktube, it's not relevant to my interests or what I'm trying to do and stuff like that. But I did see like a lot of, and maybe this happens with tags too, but like trend type chasing stuff with booktubers, you know, where I would like one or two of their videos. And so I would subscribe, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, they were really on top, you know what I mean, of whatever that next trend was. And I found it disingenuous in a way, like as you know, as a viewer, because it didn't feel as if I was getting an authentic reader. I was getting someone more so who was tapping into the community. If that does that make any sense? Like,
Yeah, but my question is, like, there probably are trend hoppers and people that chase the trends.
yeah,
But maybe that's just part of their journey. And maybe they're just getting influenced by what other people are talking about. Like,
that's a good point.
we don't know their journey, their reading journey. They might be still in that discovery phase. Because when I started, I was reading lots of genres. I was trying fantasy. I was trying science fiction. I was trying to figure out what I liked and what I didn't like. So when I started my booktube, I feel like I was influenced a lot by what was going around, because I was still in that stage of discovering what was mine, what I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And to an extent, I liked that. I really enjoyed being able to read lots of genres and being eclectic in my reading.
Is there a genre that you like you said you won't read fantasy? Are there any other genres that you don't touch, or you tried and you just know I don't like that?
I haven't read many good romance.
Oh, see, I don't even think of, yeah, you're right. Yeah, we back to our Portrait of Lady on Fire. Yeah, but I don't think of that as a genre, and I forgot that of course it totally is.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I have not read much good. I don't think I've even read romance. Like, I don't know if I've read something that'd be considered romance since high school, maybe on a curriculum.
Yeah, like, I mean, if I found something good there, I'd probably read it.
Yeah.
It's just hard. Like, for me, that's not a genre that I would go towards. It's not something that I'm interested in. So
what about young adult? Will you read any young adult?
Very few. I used to read a little bit, but there are a couple that I really liked and might try some translated ones, because I'm just interested in, like, being more knowledgeable in translation. So I need to read some more science fiction or read some more YA. Or, like, my goal, I love translations. I like the more literary, depressing stuff.
Yeah.
But I would like to have a bit of knowledge in some of the other genres as well.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, science fiction is not a genre that I seek out, but I will say that it's one of my favorite genres whenever it is part of a work, if that makes sense. I was kind of talking about this, I think, in the Tentacle review, but like literary, whatever that's supposed to be called, you know, literary fiction. One of the cool things about now is it feels like you can also be genre fiction, you know, like it can do both things. And when science fiction does that, I particularly do like it a lot. But I couldn't imagine going and reading Dune, for instance. Like, I wouldn't, I just have no desire to do that. I'm sure it's awesome, but like, you know, I don't.
I was going to say probably some of that 60s science fiction you probably dig.
Yeah.
Like Foundation series where they're trying to build their own world. Like, trying to.
The world building's cool. I mean, I've read Dahlgren. I've read 200 pages of that. 3 times. You know what I mean? Like, or whatever. You know, I've never finished it, but like, I like that. Yeah, but those things, God, science fiction, that's in there. Those things are always huge too. You know, like.
Well, it depends. Like, Kurt Vonnegut's not that.
Yeah, I don't think of him. That's true, but I just don't think. And Philip K. Dick's not either. I mean, Philip K. Dick stuff is. I took a class on Philip K. Dick in college, and I think I read through most of the stuff. And then I've done a couple rereads. That stuff holds up. It's great. You know, as you. I mean, he's one. Yeah. So you're right. That stuff's not. I was thinking more of the world building, you know, type stuff. But and fantasy is the same way, where it's just it feels huge to me. You know, maybe it's not always, but it feels that way. And I'm not interested. I want to be interested in fantasy, but I'm not. And I've never. I mean, is there translated fantasy that we don't know about? There has to be, right?
There is.
There is. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not much of a fantasy reader. I like things based in reality. I don't like these made up world building stuff.
Do you have problems with magical realism then?
Sometimes, a lot of times, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. I mean, I
like when it has a purpose, it can be really good. But just chucking about magical realism for the sake of it to make it more,
yeah,
it doesn't work for me then.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good point. One other thing about BookTube I don't like, which I think I mentioned last time, or I've mentioned before to you, I don't like book hauls. I don't care. I mean, I think you've said you like watching those.
Well, it depends on the person. And like if they're talking about books that I'm interested in reading, then definitely I'd like to see what they bought.
Yeah.
But if it's books that I have no interest in reading, it can be terrible.
I'm not interested in it because I am always seeking an opinion about the work, you know. Yeah. So if someone hasn't read it yet, I think that I get what you could get from a book haul out of literary Twitter. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's where I can see covers and I can see people talking about stuff, you know, and what, kind of getting some buzz. But to sit and watch or listen to, you know, a person kind of go over what they got, that part's just I've never been into that.
Well, we're almost to the hour. Are there any weird reading habits you've seen that you just don't get?
I mean, I think that the keeping a spreadsheet type thing is bizarre, but I know that is very popular, and it's probably something that you do.
The thing I like about the spreadsheet is just looking at the statistics.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want it to influence me too much, but I like to see, hey, I'm reading too many men. I need to pivot back because I don't want to go too far down that road.
Yeah.
Or I've read a lot from Argentina. Maybe I need to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I can see how that would be useful. To me, has always been a weird reading habit. What about you? Is there anything?
I don't understand readathons. This idea of reading quantity over quality kind of thing. I've tried a 24-hour readathon once. I don't understand.
Don't know what it is. What is it?
So a readathon is basically like, say the 24-hour readathon is like, oh, but for the 24 hours, we're going to spend the time reading, and we'll have some prompts for challenges for you to complete, like read 7 books or read a book with a blue cover or something stupid like that. But this whole idea of trying to read as many books as possible.
Oh, no, I don't like that.
No.
Now, that sounds fun for movies. That could be cool. Right? If you said, like let's do, you know, a noir from each decade, you know, over this amount of time, that could be fun. But reading that to me, it's gamifying it too much. It's making it too much like an app or See, to me, there's not, I don't, maybe this is part of the spreadsheet thing too. I like the way you described it, but one of the things that gets me is the sense of accomplishment that some people are looking for. And I don't feel that, you know what I mean? Like there's not, this is just an entertainment medium. I mean, I think it's better than the others, obviously, but like, I don't feel the need. I'm surprised to see like, so are you supposed to, is there a competitive aspect to it? Like, is it like who can read the most?
I think it's just tried to make reading more of a social experience.
That's why we have to do stuff like this, to me. You know what I mean? Like you have to have the discussion part, I think, to make it social. Yeah. Because reading in and of itself is just not going to be social. You know, I mean, yeah.
Like it's probably a topic we'll have to do someday. It's about ways we can make reading social, ways we can, but like we're out of time. We've done our hour.
We have. It was another good hour. I had fun. I hope you did.
Yeah. I think people need to give us some topics as well. If anyone has some,
it's very
that
good
would be cool. Like we definitely need to do the hard-boiled and noir conversation again.
Yes,
we did the conversation. We just never recorded it.
Well, I think that was basically the idea for this. Is when we were doing a podcast for 1 hour before the podcast, Michael and I were talking about noir, but didn't press play.
Yeah,
and at the end, we're kind of like, well, we can do that again. So yeah. So great. If you're watching, listening, or whatever, especially later in the comments, you can comment later, right, on the video?
Yeah, definitely comment later. That'll probably be the better way.
Yeah.
Like there is a live chat here, and like there's some good suggestions for 60s science fiction there as well.
Oh, Ballad. I see it now. Yeah. I've never read
Ballad.
Should read
Ballad's interesting. You've not read Ballad?
No, I haven't. That's a big hole.
I read Crash, which was made into a movie as well.
And it's not the shitty Oscar-winning Crash, right?
No.
Okay, good.
So Crash, I think I watched the movie because Trent Reznor said it was one of his favorite movies.
Okay. Yeah.
It was a weird, very weird book.
Yeah.
It was a weird movie as well, but yeah, we'll have a conversation. Maybe we'll spend some time talking about films at some point as well.
Yeah, we should. That one we'll have to prep a little bit more for so that we know what we're going into, because films that would be like saying let's talk about books, but with no focus on translated literature or something.
Yeah. So we do have a list of things we'd like to talk about, but more suggestions would be cool.
Yeah.
It'd just be fun to keep the series going. I don't know if it'll be a regular thing, but it would be awesome. Yes, that film version of Crash.
Oh, Cronenberg did that's one of my favorite directors too, and I've never seen the movie. That's bad. Yeah, this is I need to read the book first and then watch Cronenberg.
Yeah. Look, I'm finally becoming a film snob, so
and I have not. The last 2 years, I've watched the least amount of film. I used to be a huge film snob, but anyway, I'm picking it up a little bit back up in quarantine.
Yeah. So. Well, at some point, we'll go through that. That'll be a good one to talk about.
I'm watching Stalker tomorrow night, so I'm out.
Stalker?
I'm watching.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. Did you read the?
I have, yeah. I've seen the movie before, but I saw the movie years ago, half drunk. So I'm excited. I'm excited to watch it in this not half drunk state.
You might need to be high.
I think I definitely will be. I remember the tone, the sepia tones to it. I remember liking it, and I remember that it felt so long. And I looked at the running time tonight, and it's not that. I mean, it's 2 hours and 30 minutes. It's not crazy. But when I watched it years ago, I remember thinking, God, this movie is long, and that there was a lot more stuff in the book than the movie itself. But I'm really excited to watch it again, like with fresh mind, I just love that they wrote the book,
then they wrote the screenplay, and then they wrote a novelization of the movie.
It's I mean,
they cashed in so much on that.
I was just going to say that they capitalized on that idea so well. Yeah.
I think there was some games. I wonder if they got some royalties from the Stalker games as well.
Those games. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, because you'd want to go into the zone.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that'd be a perfect game. Okay, yeah.
All right. Maybe we'll talk next Sunday.
I would love to. That would be great.
All right. Until then, I won't talk to you at all because we don't want to ruin the.
Yeah,
catch you later. Yeah, thank you everyone that dropped in and the comments that they left. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
See you later.
Bye.